Hello, and very warm welcome to Breaking Patterns with Dawn Crystal. This afternoon, I've got a really special guest come to speak to me today, and I'll talk a little bit more about her story in a moment. But the main series I'm working through is how important it is to break patterns in our lives. And often, it's not just about breaking the pattern, but replacing it with something new. Or we could keep slipping back into the same patterns. And that's one of the reasons I've invited Angela to have a chat with this afternoon. So I'd like to just give you just a couple of moments in your life just to stop and reflect about what pattern would you like to change in your life right now? And how do you think that you could change that? What could you replace it with? So just a couple of minutes of listening to Denise Wise, who is a beautiful singer I met as well. So for me, it's always been about the people I meet at the right time. So I'm just going to leave you with Denise's song for just a couple of minutes and have a think about what can you change, or what would you like to change right now? Because I believe the right opportunities and the right people come into your life at the right time when you've made that choice. Gently take yourself into your quiet breath for a moment. Just breathing in very quietly, closing your eyes, and going back to that place in your mind where only your breath is important. Just breathing deep down in your body. Just holding that feeling for a moment. Think about your patterns and what would you like to change right now? And who could you reach out to help you and support you through this change? Just coming back to this moment, take your thoughts out of your head and write them on paper. Because when you make a choice to change that pattern, to make a change in your life, you put it up there in front of you, you've set a goal, and that's what you intend on doing. And then you take steps accordingly to follow that through. Okay. So Angela will be joining us in a moment, and for yourself, listen to our story as it unfolds. We're not going to, do a long story today, just a short one. Just an introduction as to why we've been brought together. Because, when people are brought into your life, often it seems like a miracle. You feel as though this person should have been in your life all of your life. Or maybe it feels like, why haven't they been? Or maybe you're in awe of what's happened. But my understanding is they come in at the perfect time when you've reached out, you've asked for that help and support, when you've put a wish out to the universe, when you've set that goal that you're going to change something, and whichever way you want to look at it, you are ready to take steps into a new way of life. And we need that team of people around us. Is it a coincidence that Angela and I were brought together early in January? We weren't going to do that course. Both of us agreed we weren't. We didn't really have enough time to do that. But we did. We didn't work together through the course, but on some level, we were brought together afterwards, the universe really does bring you in what you need. So please be careful what you're putting out to the universe. What you're projecting out is what you will attract in. And I think I may have said this 1,000 times, but it's still true. What you think about is what you will bring about. And I look forward to sharing with Angela in a moment. And, you know, I want to give you food for thought. That's really why I'm doing these podcasts, is to help you think about, what can I do in my life right now? What can I change? What am I ready to change? Or what do I need to change? And if you peel it back to that basic, what do I need to change right now? That's because your soul is ready to step in to a new beginning, into a new season of your life, where that cycle that you've been through may have exhausted itself. You've learned what you need. And now we're following through to the next step. So, you know, think about your own life. Listen to what we have to say, but think about your life. What are you ready to change right now that could make a massive difference in your life?
Yep.
Okay, so a very warm welcome to my guest, Angela. How are you today, Angela?
I'm wonderful. Yes.
Yeah, I think I want to agree with that,
is
Angela.
Great. Yes.
And you're looking wonderful today. Okay. You've had an exciting week as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had an exciting week. You know, it's so amazing when your dreams are being realized and
Yes.
your intentions have reached manifestation. It's just such a lovely experience, and I'm feeling quite ecstatic this week. Yeah.
Excellent. Well done. Can I just for a moment, I'm going to just pause this for a moment, Angela, because I just want to have a chat with you about something, Nami. Okay. So we just take the moment out there just to have a look at technology. And don't you just love technology, Angela?
Oh my God, I do.
It's great when it's going great. But, you
Yeah.
know, for anybody who's watching us today, you know, we have days, don't we, where things all flow into place. And I think when, you know, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity you give me to talk on your radio show, because to me, that's priceless. Because I just love the opportunity that we can work together and share our message, which although it's similar, we both come from a different place, aren't we?
Definitely. And you're most welcome. Yeah. I work with the energy connection. So I think we connect, and so that's good.
Oh, excuse me. Look at this. Look. Life never goes to plan. And I think one thing I've learned
At least you've got someone bringing you tea.
As a present from heaven. Okay. But you know, I think one of the things I've really enjoyed working with you, Angela, is how, you know, you've obviously got a real strong passion to want to change people's lives and help and support them, and how we're throwing each other's ideas off each other and learning from each other.
Absolutely, yes. It's been an amazing experience and journey, because I love learning from different types of people, because, you know, we're all on a journey, and we're every day we're evolving, and so yeah, it's been a brilliant experience.
Yeah, and I think it's just amazing how at the right time, in the right, you know, when you're in the right mindset, the right people do come to you.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's that alignment, isn't it? It's that alignment with your vibration. It's however, you know, the frequency level of your vibration, where you're vibing at, and the universe will draw in like magnets these amazing people, into your life.
And you know, I think for anyone who's watching this and they're new to vibrations and change and manifestation, we'll just explain a little bit. And, you know, from my point of view, I think I spent a lot of my life looking at what was wrong with me. And because I was on that level, I was attracting a lot of people who didn't treat me well.
Yes.
And when I decided to make that shift and realized that, you know, the impact of what I was doing, I'm just fascinated. Like, how much of a coincidence was it that I met you, Angela? We weren't even both meant to be there that day, and yet we both trained up for the same course.
Yes, absolutely. And I totally agree with you, Dawn. It's, you know, when you've made that mindset shift, in terms of your thought process and your thinking. And you start to actually realize that you're such a beautiful human being and you're worthy of love and you deserve to be treated with respect, then definitely your vibrations begin to change, and then you start attracting like-minded people.
Yeah, absolutely. And for yourself, Angela, when did you start to have that shift and realize that you could make a difference?
Well, for me, I had the shift like ages ago when I was a young teenager, or even prior to that. I had a conversation with my brother actually a couple of months ago, and he sent me a lovely message, and he goes, "Just want to say to you, Angela, that I love you so much." And he said, "I remembered you being my advocate when we met each other for the first time, because my brother was sent to Jamaica to be raised by my grandmother. And we never met, and we had the opportunity to meet him when he was 12 years old, and I was, younger than him by a couple of years. And he said to me that from that day when I met you, and you're such a little girl, you were advocating for me since then."
Wow.
And so I find that I've always been that sort of person. And but then in terms of mindset shift, it actually happened for me when I decided to leave a toxic marriage, and I made that ultimate shift then in terms of breaking that pattern and that toxic cycle of abusive relationships.
Wow. Yeah. And that takes a lot of courage to do that, doesn't it, Angela?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I've been in a similar situation, but I don't want to go there today. I'm interested in how your story evolved, that we actually end up coming together.
Yeah. And I think, it's like when you're in that journey, because I know that you've had a similar experience to me, and it's like when you're in that transition of that journey, and you start to then again, like we've mentioned before, we start to attract like-minded people that are evolving at the same frequency as we are, and then there's a magnetic connection. And that's what I will describe our connection, to be honest. It's quite magnetic.
That is.
And
it's quite magical when you come together, because you don't have to explain yourself. That person just kind of gets you.
And it's amazing. And I like that word you used, Dawn. They get you. And so when you get each other, when there's a real connection, there's no room for not that you're not going to disagree, because you've got different types of perspectives, but trivial things, you're not going to, it's not going to cause any sort of negativity in your relationship.
And there's no competition. We're both just coming with a passionate to want to help people.
We've got nothing to prove here.
No, I think it comes from respect. For me, when I look at you and I just think, wow, I've got great respect for what you're doing, and I know you respect what I'm doing. It's like,
absolutely, yes.
For anyone who's listening to us, I would say, I think the major shift for me came when I started to respect myself. And when I started to recognize that I could make a change in me and that I deserve better, it wasn't just what I was leaving behind, because at the time I didn't know that I was going to make that shift, but I started getting stronger in myself. And from that place, it's almost like this new door started opening. And as I stepped into those doors, I think that's when the real change happened. I realized how much I've grown in such a short time.
Yes. And in terms of patterns, I mean, I can resonate. And in terms of patterns and breaking that pattern, I remembered, about a century ago, when I had left that toxic situation, and there were other toxic situations that preceded that. However, it was quite, a couple of years back, I was sort of trying to investigate why was I repeating things, and it was that quest of learning and wanting to find out, wanting to investigate, because I didn't want to continue doing that. And it was when I was starting to, and I think the universe heard my quest for wanting to learn, and then again he opens up this vacuum of people or experiences
Yeah.
and opportunities that would open up your subconscious mind to receive something different that you were taught, as it were. And that's when things, again, a sort of, it's like an evolving mind shift. And so you're going from one level to the other. And that experience for me in terms of subconscious mind shift, and in looking deeper in terms of doing that inner shadow work, looking into generational and ancestral patterns, that's what really shifted for me ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did a show on that, and that was really insight for me, because I hadn't really considered too much about the ancestral patterns. I'd looked at my life patterns and past lives, but I hadn't looked at ancestral patterns. And I don't think, when we're sitting in, should I call it a toxic relationship? I was then got to say something else. Okay, when we're sitting in a toxic relationship, I don't think we look at the impact of all of those things that we've been through, and what our parents have been through and our ancestors have been through, as having an impact on who we are today.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think I've learned in terms of patterns and breaking those patterns and cycles, is that it ultimately starts with us in terms of being aware of who we are and being aware of our behavior, and opening up our subconscious minds to that awareness.
Yeah, and I think it is being open to it, though. And for you, Angela, I don't know, I'm trying to think back to when I sort of first consciously had this thought that I can make a difference. And I know it's with the remedies, because that was a massive shift in me, and I started to change things from that moment. But for anyone who's listening, how would you say, if they're in a toxic situation now, or they're feeling disharmony with themselves, where would you say they could start to make that change?
I think it starts with acknowledgement. You've got to actually acknowledge that you are actually in a situation that you're not actually happy with. And I know that we've done a couple of shows in terms of listening to your feelings and your body. What's your body telling you? And your feelings and your intuition. And so I think it's so important for you to listen to how people make you feel. And it's also equally based on their energy and their vibration. And if it's a low vibration, they're not going to make you feel good.
No.
And I think it's being sort of sensitive or alert to your feelings. I think that's the starting point.
Yeah, that's a really good place to start. Just listening to how you feel about what's going on around you. And how do you feel about how you feel as well? And for me, I love writing. I've got boxes and boxes of memoirs and thoughts, and one day I'm going to create an encyclopedia, I think. But it's like, I used to take it out of my head and put it on paper in front of me and say, if my sister or my friend was going through this, what advice would I give them? So I could become objective about it. By observing what I was going through, instead of being emotionally attached to it, it was a real eye-opener for what I needed to change.
Yes, I agree. And I think when you start to listen to your feelings and your body experiences, the energy levels of people that you associate with and how they make you feel, and how you're feeling about yourself, then that's when it all begins. And that's where the change begins in terms of, changing the patterns, because then when you're not happy and when you acknowledge that there's something that needs shifting, then you can start the process of that change. But if you are not aware of what needs shifting, then you're going to continue in that low vibration or in that toxic relationship, because it's something that you're familiar with.
Absolutely. And for me, Angela, I knew I wasn't happy, but nobody had ever shown me choices, which is quite crazy, because I was about 30 something, and yet nobody had told me that I had a choice to step away from this, or to go inwardly and learn about myself. Nobody had ever shared negative and positive mindset. And I'm like, I think I must have been living in a cupboard. But it was like one of those wake up moments when, oh my gosh, there's a whole new world out there. And I'd say for anybody who's recognizing that suddenly they're in disharmony with who they believe they could be, listen listen to what's going on in here, because that is the trigger for your soul saying, this is your time when you can change, because you've got what you need within you.
Absolutely, and that's key, that word. When you find yourself having an imbalance, so there's everything's not balanced together. I think that's key. And sometimes you feel a bit derailed. Someone's yanking your strings or pressing your buttons on a continuous basis, and you find yourself repeating things, and you're in this cycle, and it's sort of karmic cycle where nothing's changing, and you're feeling frustrated with that. And I think what's key is actually what I've learned through my journey is that I'm ultimately responsible for changing myself, and no other person. Even my partner, even my children. We're ultimately responsible for changing ourselves first. And sometimes we can play that role of caretaker, rescuer, enabler, thinking that we're helping, but we're not.
No. And I think I learned that a long while ago, but I kept making that same mistake for quite a lot of years, thinking if only they would change this, or if only they would change that, or even for myself, changing the circumstance around me by getting a new job or moving house. And it didn't change what was going on within me.
No.
I had to take that responsibility and become accountable for the changes that I needed to make.
And it's an incredible journey for anyone that's listening, because you can have so much chaos externally, and if you manage your mindset effectively, it should not affect you, because you've got inner peace, you've got a sense of who you are and where you are, and so it should not really disturb you, because it's an inner peace that nobody can actually take away from you once you've learned the techniques of managing that chaos, because obviously you take responsibility of self first, which is looking after your well-being.
Absolutely, Angela. And can we just take a moment, maybe, because if somebody tried to explain this to me 30 odd years ago, I would have thought I wouldn't know where to start. And I think for me, looking back, obviously I could do it easy, when I got beyond it. I think it was looking back at what my body was telling me. So listening to the fact that I'd got headaches, so that's a sign of stress. Listening to that I felt uptight in my neck, and that was a sign of stress. My tummy was upset. The panic attacks, I think, would all result of what was going on around me and the way I was reacting.
Absolutely, and I can second that, because I suffered from panic attacks as well. I had chronic insomnia, couldn't sleep. I was on tranquilizer, so I was listening to my body. And then I remembered I went to have some acupuncture, and they told me that I had an imbalance in my body. And so all this stress of this relationship was causing an imbalance in my physical body. And I think that the fine line, or the final straw then for me, was when I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, because that was the ultimate impact. And I thought, well, do you know what? My health or my marriage, and I chose my health.
Well done. And sometimes it has to be that radical. And where you then started focusing on your health as opposed to what was gone wrong, did you start to get stronger within yourself, Angela?
Sorry, someone's knocking the door.
Oh, do you want to answer?
Someone's been bringing me my lunch, and he's been tapping on that door, and I've been trying to ignore him, like trying to be serious. I won't eat it.
That's good to have people who are supporting you.
It smells really good as well. Late lunch, brunch. But I totally agree, Dawn, that when we listen to our bodies, both of us experience panic attacks. I used to have muscle spasms, so I had like lumps on my back. Used to having to go and have lots of massages. I had, headaches, and my vibration was very low, because I was feeling low and, you know, and depressed and gloomy. And then, as you said, you attract all these negatives in your life because that's where you're at this point. And so, yeah, it was a dark place.
Yeah, absolutely. And what steps did you take for yourself, Angela, to get yourself from that space?
Okay, so then I started to, again, you know, I listened to my body and obviously and all these ailments. And I thought to myself, well, I can't continue like this. Because if I do, then I'm not going to have a long, healthy lifestyle or perhaps life. And then I was sort of looking at, had my children were young at the time, and I'm thinking they're going to need mommy to be around for them. And I need to be around for myself. And so again, I weighed it all up and I thought, you know, my health is so paramount. It's so important for me to be healthy, so important for me to be happy, so important for me to be treated with love and respect. And so I started to, you know, analyze how I was feeling and what I deserve. And I started to, you know, and I think actually at the time I used to subscribe to some, I mean, I'm a book lover, like yourself. And this lady sent a book to me just through the post because I had a subscription for some books. And this lady, she sent me this book. And I think I've still got it somewhere. Anyway, this book was just talking about how we deserve to be loved. And I knew it was the universe sending me this book. And because I didn't even, because I usually buy books on subscription, I didn't actually even purchase or, you know, order this book. And it came through the post and it just broke down how I deserve to be loved, how I deserve, you know, different details. And I knew that the universe was actually speaking to me. And so that was like a confirmation of the way I was feeling and how I acknowledged the fact that, yes, I deserve better. So just imagine when you lift your vibration, thinking and thought processes in terms of now with a different perspective, and you're now thinking, yes, I deserve to be treated better. And this cannot be what the universe has for me. Then the universe confirmed that with this book through the post. And then when I was reading this book through the post, it was so spiritual and so emotional. And it was, again, helping me to, you know, pick those layers off of self-doubt, of low self-worth, which was an ancestral, generational thing. So yeah, that's how the journey started.
And that's interesting. You said something came in and you focused on that, and I think that's the second time you've said that in a different way. And I think, you know, for anybody who's feeling like they're stuck in a pattern, sometimes we can't change the circumstances around us. We can't change the people, but what we can do is start to change your focus. So start to focus on something that you can change, something you can achieve.
And then I think what I did as well was I gave, you know, my partner an ultimatum. And this was a final ultimatum. And I said, well, you know, if I didn't see changes and I think, again, as a process, that's setting your boundary, you set healthy boundaries. And then I mentioned to him at the time that if things didn't change at a specific time, then I was going to take, you know, robust action. And I did. And I got out of that. I got out of that marriage. And so I think the next stage would be then is to take, you know, appropriate boundaries, healthy boundaries to protect yourself.
That's absolute priority. Because when you start to change what feels right for you, the people who don't respect it need to move out of your life, or you need to move away from them. And
I think I was listening to something quite recently, and they were mentioning that the universe will allow you to continue in that cycle until you listen and you take action. And so if someone's stuck and you're wondering, I can't actually do this, it keeps repeating. The universe is waiting for you to take action, for you to make that change. And then once you've done that, or once you start that process of thinking, like I did, I deserve much better, the universe will bring that help for you.
Absolutely. And I think that's such an important message, Angela, because, you know, I could not have guessed the impact of making one change in my life would make. It's just brought in a whole team of, you know, it's been different all through the years. I've had a lot of different teams of people. And I think that's important for me to recognize that the people come in at the right time.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
at the right time. And then
Yeah.
I think it's also that you should not have like a restrictive criteria of what that help's going to look like.
Yeah.
You're open to what the universe is going to bring.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think if you have like a growth mindset in terms of being open, then you're going to receive much more from the universe.
Definitely. Being open and being flexible.
Yeah.
I think that's the word I've learned. I've learned to be flexy.
Yeah.
I think in my past, looking back, I was probably quite rigid in my thinking. I think I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Well,
Yeah.
actually, when I sat back more and did meditation and prayers and listened to myself and listened to my universe, they sent the right people in who were mirroring what I needed.
Yeah, and you change yourself, as you said, because I used to be like an OCD type person, and quite rigid because I used to be in the army as well. So I had that sort of background, and coming from a religious type of background where, you know, we were forced to believe a certain way and a pattern, and so quite a rigid background. But I was always the rebel when I was young. So, but in saying that, you know, some of these little patterns do sort of influence sometimes your mindset and how you think. And I think because I've always been a creative person, it's helped me to move away from that way of life and thinking. So being a rebel works.
It does, actually. And I think sometimes you've just got to step aside from what everyone else believes in and do what feels right to you.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, as you said, it's the shadow work and the inner work that you do with yourself first, irrespective of what everyone else is thinking about you or what the circumstances look like. It's the inner work that you do for you, and that's what's really important. And you know, you protect yourself, and you be gentle with yourself as well. You know, sometimes we can beat ourselves up unnecessarily, so we've got unrealistic expectations of self. And like you said, Dawn, sometimes, you know, we just have to take it easy. And, you know, if we can't get a certain task done in that day, or our to-do list, if we haven't been able to accomplish everything on that to-do list, you know, don't beat yourself up. You know, there's always tomorrow. And I've been a lot more relaxed than I used to be last century. Now I'm really relaxed. I don't really beat myself up, you know. I just take things, you know, easy. I'm easy on myself.
Yeah, well, and I think that's necessary because that helps your mind and your brain start producing the oxytocin, the chemicals that keeps you in that flow of happiness.
Yes. And it's when you get these negative thoughts as well, in terms of breaking those patterns, is when these negative thoughts arise, because they will still arrive and they will always arrive. But then it's because you have now managed yourself effectively in terms of your mindset that you are more attuned to these negative thoughts when they do arrive, and then you immediately change that thought pattern to a positive thought pattern, and you can do different things. I mean, you can use some of your remedies, can't you, Dawn, in order to do that?
Oh, well, that was my passion. That was actually what changed my life. But thank you for mentioning it. I'll just have a quick show everybody, because these were what changed my life. Well, I wouldn't say necessarily these changed my life. I think the fact that Carol reached out and offered me help and support gave me hope that I could make a difference, I could change. And she introduced me to these remedies, which are Dr. Bark's remedies, and they're all different states of mind and different emotions, which if you're out of balance, the remedies can correct that. And for me, I was like, suddenly it was okay for me to study me and do something for me and spend money on me as well, gone for little treatments and that. Carol was only charging a £5 at the time because she recognized that's all I could afford. But the fact that she was so kind and she was so generous to me, it gave me a whole new way of life. I should be forever grateful for that. Just like, you know, now we've met and you've given me this opportunity to be on your show. I feel so grateful because I can't even put it into words. It's just like, wow, it feels like something's meant to be.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I agree. I totally agree. And I was quite inspired by your journey because I had no idea, you know, about your background. And it just goes to, you know, it just confirms that it's a spiritual connection here. Because I had no idea. about your journey and your experience. And then with your book that you've published recently as well, Free to Be Me, it just so resonates with my pursuit of that freedom, that we have the right to be us, to exist, to to be us in our true sense.
And to make that choice.
We have that right, to fight for us. We have that right.
Absolutely, Angela. Okay, and I'm looking forward to seeing where the show goes, because we're doing this like a joint thing. You have an idea, I have an idea, and one day maybe we'll get other people popping their ideas in as well, and we could create shows around what other people need.
That'd be great. And it's amazing. And with the shows, I'm quite flexible. I'm not rigid at all, and I haven't got like a list of our topics like we do. I go with the spirit. What this, I listen to what the spirit wants us to talk about, and sometimes it's something that we've gone through ourselves, so that we can help others and support others. And sometimes it's like a new discovery that the spirit wants to stretch us to attain to. Things like the architects, which is quite deep in terms of ancestral and stuff. And I know that we've got part 2 to do as well, because we started as part 1 about 2 weeks ago. And so, things that actually stretch you, that makes you really think, do that inner and that shadow dark work that is so necessary in order to evolve and move on to the new you. And as we are approaching, like, I know it's summer, we're approaching a new season soon, and it's so important for us to do that work so that we don't carry the patterns of the last season into this new one, because it's going to be chaotic if we do.
It will. And if you're thinking about it on that level, Angela, and keeping it that simple, there isn't room in our new season for all the old stuff. So we have to make that choice, really, to not take all that baggage with us.
And sometimes making that shift is quite uncomfortable, because we're familiar. We've become so familiar with this way of life, so familiar with this pattern, and lots of us, we enjoy familiarity, and we don't want to make that change, that comfort zone. But in order to grow and evolve in life, you've got to do things outside of your comfort zone. That's going to cause a bit of discomfort, a bit of stretching, but ultimately it's going to bring you to the new you.
I love that. The other day, Jamie, Jamie, who was in our coaching group, he sent a message back saying, a new dawn, a new day. And I'm like, okay, I like that. And I used to use that as a slogan years ago. He didn't know that. I think people, as much as we can feel that growth within us, we sometimes can't see just how much we've come until someone points it out to us.
And I think, you can actually measure how you've grown by, your reactions to things. That you don't react the way you used to react. And I think that's how you can measure how you've changed.
That's a really good point, actually. Because I think I used to be quite volatile in the past. I went from really meek and mild and didn't say anything to anybody to, oh my God, God help anybody who gets in my way.
That's like a defense. It's a defense mechanism, isn't it?
But I've mellowed.
And I think we've talked about that. That's living in security. Is it security mindset? Security mode. And we put all our defenses up and stuff. And we've discussed how we can't thrive in that security mode at all.
No, it's okay for a little while. It got me through
it's a process,
a period of change. But I soon realised that it's actually been detrimental to my health.
I used to do that as well. I mean, as we've discussed in many shows, if you're angry and frustrated and you're volatile, it's because you're going through so many emotions, in particularly that's impacting on you. And it's a part of how you are like expressing how you're feeling. And you're going through a process of change yourself, such as forgiveness and letting go and releasing the past, etc. And so all these emotions will inevitably show up because it's a part of the process of change.
Wow. We've both come a long way, haven't we?
We sure have.
I think we've got an exciting journey ahead of us, Angela. I really do.
Yeah, I'm so ecstatic, because I now, now I actually understand why I had to go through all these things. I can actually see the end game of it all.
Yeah.
And I mean, through my shows, I mean, I've been doing my shows for over a century on different platforms, and always, providing this sort of platform for everyone. And so I can see why the universe has used me as a vessel to do this. Yeah. And I can understand why. And I appreciate, although difficult and challenging on many occasions, but it's a part of growth. I understand why, we go through things. It's because we are here to help others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go through there. Yeah.
And I think, if I hadn't been through all the anxiety and childhood stuff, I'm sure I wouldn't have the patience I have with other people who are distressed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they say our mess, our message. Yeah, that's what they say.
I like that. Our mess, our message.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I've got to hold on to that one, Angela. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you so much for sharing today. And I think we've got so much more that we could explore. But I think for the moment, Angela, would you like to tell people how and when you're actually on the radio or when you're doing your shows?
Yeah, okay. So the Angela Lee Show, it's actually streamed on a Saturday and a Sunday between the hours of 9 and 11 a.m. GMT. And it's on lnsoulradio.com with all the W's. And we also stream live on StreamYard and on Facebook Live, and also on my new YouTube channel that I restarted again, Angela Lee. And you can subscribe to that. And Dawn joins me on a Sunday with our spiritual and well-being show.
Yes.
And so, yeah, you join us anytime.
Yeah. And if they've got any feedback, if they've got some points of view they'd like to put into the conversation, please come forward, because the show really, although it's about us initially, it's about helping you. It's about helping others.
And if you've got an issue that you'd like us to discuss, just send us you can inbox me on Facebook, Angela or Dawn, reach out to us. If you've got an issue that you'd like to share and discuss, then we can actually discuss that on the show. Yeah. And you can join us. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Angela, for sharing today. It's been a real pleasure, my love.
My pleasure as well.
And I'm looking forward to Sunday as well.
Yeah.
Would you like to stay on the line just for a moment after we're finished, and then we can sort out next week? And just watch this space, everybody. And I would say, if you've gone through a time of change, or you feel a disharmony or sadness, it often feels like an emptiness inside you. Listen to that feeling, because as Angela said, this is your soul crying out to say, this is my time to change. Absolutely. And if you're feeling that right now, you've got what you need within you, and you can do it.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. It's been a real pleasure, my love. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
So that was the beautiful Angela Lee. And please join us on our radio show on Sunday. And Angela's also got a lovely show on Saturday, which is more about educational and business. So if you've got a plan, if you've got a thought, if you've got something that you want to change in your life, we can look at ways that we can help you. All right. Remember, when your soul is calling out to say, I'm ready to change, often shows up as a lower feeling in spirit. It can often be even like a feeling of grieving, like there's something wrong. You don't feel happy with yourself. Listen to those feelings. Take a little time to jot down what you're experiencing. And then reach out. And together we can make a difference. And you can turn things around for yourself. Thank you. This is Dawn saying thank you very much. And remember, this is your life. You deserve the very best. And take care of yourselves. And I'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye.